Hi, I'm Jonathan Ferguson. I'm one of the firearms curators here at the Royal Armouries in Leeds. I'm holding here a particularly unusual firearm from the collection that I wanted to share with you. We've got it off display at the moment for some photography. There's a lot of interest at the moment in the academic world about these early revolvers, very early revolvers. This isn't the earliest revolver in the world, although I suspect we also have that, maybe for another video. This one dates to around 1680, and it's very significant for one very important reason. Well, probably more than one. But the really interesting thing about it from a technical point of view is that it revolves itself. It's what they might have called an automatic revolver. I mean something a bit different now. But when you cock the gun, and I will just do it there, the cylinder that contains the 6 shots, just like a modern revolver, rotates to the left on its own. Everything before this, you had to turn the cylinder yourself. This is what we would call today a single action revolver, just like the cowboy revolvers you see in the movies. Very significant in terms of Samuel Colt, famous Colt firearms company, and what he was doing from his 1836 patent onwards. He absolutely did invent the percussion revolver, the modern functioning single-action revolver. He's a little bit careful about how he writes about earlier attempts like this one, and he's very careful to not point out that this one does revolve itself. He does talk about it in a piece he wrote. So this, we don't actually know who made this. It's very close to a couple of pieces by the amusingly named John Daft, who's an English gunmaker, round about 1660, 70, 80, hence the tentative date. It's made of brass, it's very heavy, wooden stock, that's conventional. It has a belt hook on this side. I wouldn't want this swinging from my belt, but nonetheless, it's there. Conventional cock and frizzen or steel that pivots down. We call this snap pants. It's a type of flintlock. If I just cock it again, that's it in firing position. From the front, you'll see there are 6 chambers, just like in a modern revolver, and a single barrel, what makes it a true revolver pistol. And then correspondingly, we've got the pans with the priming powder in each, and the covers slid shut. So you'd load each of these with powder and bullet. You'd prime each pan with powder and close it. Fairly laborious process, but bearing in mind at this time nearly all firearms are single shot, or maybe 2 barrels or something like that. Once you're done, you've got this internal mechanism, which I can't take apart and show you right now, but attached to the front here is what's called a pull or a hand, and when you pull that back, it pushes up on a ledge that's on the back of each chamber, and that pushes it around anti-clockwise. One step, cock it again, the next step, and you'll see that on camera as well. Very gentle. It's the next one in position. So that cover is loose there, unfortunately. And you see there's a little knob in there, and that's the push rod, and when I pull the trigger, it's shoving it open. Hopefully that makes sense. Rotates. One more time. Rotates. So what stops this from being a true single action revolver is this frizzen here, because that's it in firing position. We pull the trigger very, very gently. Look out of the way manually, because we don't want to hurt it. That flies forward, strikes sparks off the steel, pushes the pan open with this little rod here. Sparks land in the pan goes flash. Powder, the flame goes through into the chamber, and one shot goes down the barrel. Then you cock it again. Not quite ready for the next shot because you've got to move that into position. So it's not quite your cowboy click bang, just to simplify things. But it's pretty close, and really close for 1680. Really impressive piece of technology. So why didn't it catch on? Well, Colt was at pains to point out that a lot of these early revolvers were prone to explosions. So if you get flame from one chamber to another, they might all go off, which is a problem for the long gun versions, because if you're holding up here, that's going to be a bad time. This is meant to be fired by one hand, so that's not really a worry, but you might still have a gap somewhere. Black powder is dangerous stuff. I think Colt was overrating it though, to be honest with you. This properly timed and set up, I don't see why this wouldn't work just as well. But it's a flintlock. You know, percussion is what really made this a viable thing moving forward, and mass production, which Colt was heavily involved with. Those two things really made the modern revolving pistol possible, but this is an amazing early attempt. We mentioned Samuel Colt and his famous revolver, I think just about everyone's heard of. This is one of them. This is the 1851 model, or Navy model. Patents, or the design, sorry, is similar to his 1836 patent, which comes 150 years after the Daft revolver that we've just looked at. But very, very similar. You'll see when I pull the hammer back, the cylinder revolves. It revolves the other way. That's not hugely significant. Certain revolvers revolve the other way. It's not important, but the basic mechanism is the same. Cock it. It brings a new chamber into alignment, you pull the trigger, fires it. Cock it, fire it. Cock it, fire it. You can see how much simpler this is now that you don't need the flint, the cock, the steel. You've just got the hammer, and then on the back of here, on these nipples here, goes a copper cap. The percussion system, it makes things much, much better. And you've got the mass production technology to make these parts fit precisely, which you could do before, but you had to do it by hand. That made a revolver like the Daft revolver extremely expensive, and this quite affordable by 1851.